In the 1970s, in a small village near the edge of the Congo Basin, there lived a respected hunter named Okoth. He was tall, quiet, and brave, a man whose arrows never missed and whose traps always caught something. One season, when elephants began raiding the villagers' crops, Okoth volunteered to track them deep into the forest. He never returned. At first, the villagers searched for him. Days turned to weeks. They found only broken branches, a torn piece of cloth, and the marks of elephants. Eventually, the search ended, and his family mourned him as dead. But Okoth was alive. While tracking the herd, he had slipped down a rocky ravine and broken his leg. He lay there for days, fighting pain and hunger, until he managed to set his own bone with a branch and vines. Crawling through the undergrowth, he found water in a stream and began to survive on wild fruits, roots, and whatever small animals he could catch with sharpened sticks. When he finally healed, Okoth tried to find his way home, but the forest was endless. Paths were swallowed by vines. Familiar landmarks disappeared. With no compass and no one to guide him, he wandered deeper and deeper, farther away from the world he knew. The years passed. He learned which berries healed sickness and which ones brought fever. He made fire by striking stones. He built shelters from palm leaves during the rains and slept in hollow trees during storms. His skin grew rough, his hair turned wild, his clothes fell apart until he wore only bark cloth and animal hides. He began to live as the forest people once had, speaking less, listening more, to the calls of birds, the growls of leopards, the whisper of rivers. Time blurred. 40 years later, loggers entered the remote part of the forest. They reported seeing a man tall and thin, his face covered in a long gray beard, carrying a handmade spear. At first they thought he was a spirit or a hermit. When they spoke to him in Lingala, he answered haltingly. His voice cracked, words strange from years without human company. The villagers were stunned when the loggers brought him back. Some elders remembered his eyes, the hunter's sharp gaze. His children were old now, with grandchildren of their own. His wife had died decades before. Okoth stood at the edge of his village, silent, watching a world that had moved on without him. Motorbikes roared past where once there were only footpaths. Radios played music from faraway cities. The children looked at him like he was a ghost. He realized then he had survived 40 years, but he no longer belonged to the village. His home was a forest. And so, after only a few weeks, Okoth returned to the jungle, the only place he still knew how to live. They say sometimes hunters in that part of the Congo still catch glimpses of him, a shadow moving between trees, the last man who belonged to the wild. For months, no one saw him. Many believed he had gone to die among the trees that had kept him alive for 4 decades. But then hunters and travelers began to whisper stories. Sometimes at dawn, a thin old man could be seen at the riverbank, fishing with his bare hands. In the deepest part of the forest, people claimed to find animal traps set in the old ways, as if by a master hunter. Some said Okoth had become more spirit than man, a guardian of the jungle, protecting it from poachers and outsiders. Years later, when loggers returned, they found a small clearing with a hut made of branches. Inside were animal bones carefully arranged, tools carved from stone, and a spear leaning against the wall. There was no sign of Okoth himself. The villagers said he had gone to join the ancestors, not in the village graveyard, but in the heart of the forest, where his soul belonged. And so, Okoth's story ended not in the home he left behind, but in the wilderness that had kept him alive. To this day, some say his spirit still walks there, the hunter who was lost but never defeated.